The most toxic misconception about a career path is that there's a hierarchy in different types of careers. What does it mean? That there's some type of career which are more important than others. That is to say, you get better social recognition and you're more successful if you're a lawyer, investment banker, or economist. But what that misconception doesn't recognize is that we live in a very different digital age, which is, by the way, much more flexible and gives legitimacy to another type of career path. What is that? Content creators, design, and other creative skills and careers that have a real impact and prospect in life. Two ways of setup then from the proposition. Firstly, 3 points of crucial framing. 1. We would characterize middle-class families economically as having a sustainable set of income, although they most likely won't be able to afford luxurious things. That's why side opposition cannot argue that these kids would struggle with extreme financial problems. Secondly, the context of the world is changing. Right now, the opportunities for work are evolving, where the value of it necessarily comes from creativity, right? It looks like, for example, designing with aspects of minimalism. It looks like ad creation, for example, that can capture low attention spans of our current society. Thirdly, the outcomes of work on both sides of the house are unpredictable and something we cannot control, because oftentimes work is not merely based on your education. It is also based on your experience at work. And let's be clear here, we're not saying on proposition that formal education is useless or bad. We're saying that if the child chooses to pursue, that his or her path of success is going to be different, it is legitimate then to not pursue formal education in that process. Secondly then, on model, what does deprioritizing formal education look like? We think it simply means that we give choice to children and that it has to be an option, right? For example, if we see the kids are already doing part-time jobs in college, or even in the most extreme cases where they choose not to pursue higher education, then we as a parent would say it's okay, and we would allow that choice to be pursued. So with that said then, two main arguments from the proposition. Firstly, on why this is principally the right type of parenting, and secondly, on the maximization of agency and opportunities. So first argument, why is this principally the right type of parenting? The first thing I want to characterize is the purpose of parenting, and I think there are two very important fundamentals of good parenting. The first is to provide the right guidance based on your past experiences. And the purpose of this is to ensure that your child develops well, because you need to understand that there's a power play as a parent. So what this means is that you have the ability to direct and control, and your decision is going to be very impactful for the entirety of your child's life. Therefore, as parents, there's a need to maximize your child's potential. The second purpose of parenting is to allow children to find meaning in their own lives through their own curiosities and through their own gifts of life. So even if we have control as parents, it is still important to not train a child to learn by force, but rather it's important to direct them by what amuses their minds. Because let's characterize, what types of kids are we talking about in this debate? The first thing I want to point out is that obviously there's going to be a spectrum of different types of children in this role. There will be people who pursue formal education and they're still allowed to do that on either role. But we're talking about people who don't like monotonous jobs. We're talking about people who don't like formal education, people who don't like being forced what to think and how to think, and people who don't like being filtered all the time. Because for some children, the sad reality is that they only get like 3 years to walk and talk freely, and the rest of their life is to shut up and sit on a desk. And that is the unfortunate truth we have in our reality today. And that's something that not everyone agrees is most meaningful in life. Therefore, we're talking about kids who are more into creative skills, children who think outside the box with their curiosity. And the role of parents is to support the child's strengths to maximize his or her potential by giving them this choice. Why then is this principle morally justified? There are three important principles. The first principle is one that the meaning of life and success is going to be vastly different for everyone. The definition of success is not simply limited to, for example, what school you went to or what degree you have. In the cases of creativity, if a child is interested in becoming a writer in the future, success may look different, right? Success may look like the improvement in their word use, may look like the improvement in grammar or vocabulary. So on side opposition's world, people will not become whole individuals because they're constrained to a traditional view of success. On proposition, we allow individuals to pursue this passion, and we acknowledge that this choice is one that's worthy. The second principle is one on individual happiness. In life, oftentimes, it's not simply about the grind that matters. It's also about how people perceive themselves. It's also about how people perceive what brings them fulfillment and purpose beyond theoretical education. Because not everyone's going to be fulfilled in life. When they're forced to take the traditional route, when they know that there's a fire creative side inside of them that they need to exercise. On side proposition, we say what defines happiness is a fundamental that cannot be taken away. Finally, finally is the principle that it's completely legitimate to take risks and break norms sometimes. Now, even if we concede that this route of life is going to be challenging for individuals, we think that this choice at the end of the day is legitimate because it becomes a struggle that keeps you going as an individual. And as a parent, by allowing your child to grow, to try and fail and try again, to learn new ways and create new things, you create an individual who lives because they want to and not because they have to. So irrespective of the outcomes, these principles of choice and agency stand in this debate. Second argument then, on the maximization of agency and opportunities. The first thing I want to do is contextualize the world because the job market has completely evolved, especially over the past 5 to 10 years. Social media has become ever powerful. Online marketing has become one of the most important aspects of business growth. Audiovisual design, for example, is needed by major international corporations like Apple, Facebook. The point I'm trying to make here is that the world is slowly moving into a creative economy, one that highly values elements of the world like attention. This is why there's huge urgency and demand for jobs that require creativity, like content creation for ads, for example, in businesses or design. The implication for parents is that, firstly, you need to debunk the idea that you're going to be poor because there's also a clear path to success. One, there's huge amounts of free resources online, more than we could ever consume on things like video editing, content creation, etc. Two, the tools you need to start this career is entirely accessible and low investment, right? That's why you see a lot of people in developing countries, for example, who are hired as video editors or who become very successful in industries like TikTok or YouTube because it's no longer about what degree you have. It is now about your creativity, and that is universal for everyone. But secondly, sure, on opposition, we can concede that formal education might make you a living, but we say that self-education will make you a fortune. And this self-education, we believe, is going to be much more stronger resonating for kids when they're given the choice to pick what passions they want to pursue in life, to exercise their creative mind. Because the comparative that opposition needs to defend is individuals who live in a world who dislike the rigid systems of the traditional system and are forced to stick by it by their parents, right? Where you may get an education and it might not be suitable for a lot of jobs and you might not even be happy at the end of the day. On proposition, we champion the idea that parents are more open-minded to the context of new creative opportunities in this world that can be monetized by simply allowing your child to live true to who they really are. Because at the end of the day, as a child and as any individual in this world living, it's not about becoming a new person. It's about becoming the person you were meant to be. It's about becoming the person you already are, but don't know how to be. So proud to propose.